What's going on, guys? This is the Frontline podcast for Christian men. I'm your host, Mike Freeman, and today the podcast is titled The Diligent Man. So what is that all about? So basically the main question is this: how should a man approach his work? And when most people think about the word work, they're thinking about jobs and careers. But I mean this from a more broad perspective. And how I look at work is essentially the things you're responsible for, your purpose, your family, how you lead your family, and how you lead within your community. All of that is work, your life's work, the things that you do and why you do them, right? And from a little bit of studying and doing some reading and some praying, one word that really stuck out to me that describes exactly how a man should approach his work is the word diligent. And what I got from that study is that every Christian man should strive to be as diligent about their work as they possibly can. So let's just break down the definition of the word diligent. I have two definitions for you. The first one is having care and being conscientious of one's work or duties. And then the second is diligent, meaning characterized by steady, earnest, and energetic effort. So you have some context of what the word diligent means, right? I really like the second definition where it says steady, earnest, and energetic effort, meaning you're steady, meaning being consistent, earnest, meaning being with priority, right? A sense of urgency, and energetic, like I'm excited to do it. I'm pushing hard to get this done, right? So being diligent in your work and everything you do in your life is extremely important. And to really give this more color and to really break this down a little bit more, I want to share with you 7 synonym words that are aligned to the word diligent that to me really breaks this down a little bit more and gives you some more context of, man, I just got saved and I'm a man. Like, how do I approach my day to day? Like, what does the Bible say about this stuff? Man, I didn't grow up with a father. I didn't have a father in my life. Or I had a father, but maybe we didn't have a good relationship. Or I didn't have strong men in my life that could teach me some of these things. This message right here, this information right here is going to completely change your perspective in your life in general if you include this information into your day-to-day life. All right. So I got 7 synonym words associated with the word diligent that I'm going to go through that can help really paint a strong picture for you of what it truly means and what it looks like for a man to be diligent. But before I do that, I'm going to get into 4 scriptures that makes the biblical argument for why a man should be diligent. And I'm quoting from the book of Proverbs today. And that's one of the primary books that I love to read when we talk about men's content, because there's just so much advice in there that's clear and concise and straight to the point. So I have 4 scriptures for you from the book of Proverbs that specifically uses the word diligent. Proverbs 10:4, lazy hands make for poverty, but diligent hands bring wealth. Proverbs 12:27, the lazy do not roast any game, but the diligent feed on the riches of the hunt. Proverbs 13:4, a sluggard's appetite is never filled, but the desires of the diligent are fully satisfied. And last but not least, Proverbs 21:5, the plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty. So is this just about money and just getting materials and just getting food and just getting things? No, it's about understanding that in order to have positive outcomes in your life, you have to be diligent. You have to be consistent. You have to push and work hard towards what it is that you want. Those who don't do that will not have good outcomes, will create outcomes in their lives that aren't good. So oftentimes we have conversations in the church and we talk in the church about all the things that we come to God with when we're in struggle, when we're in lack. And that's good. We should pray to him and say, hey, I'm struggling with this. I'm struggling with that. Lord God, give me the strength, provide for myself, for my family. Help me provide, help me get over my rut. Help me to get through my issues, etc. And we should be praying those prayers. But part of the reality is you have to do something too. You have to do your part. It's not God just doing everything, right? You're actually feet on the ground, hands in the game, physically or mentally doing or putting in the work. You have to do things within your life to actually get to the outcomes that you want to get to. God is going to use you as a vessel, meaning like you're actually moving within the world, doing things, right? I think sometimes a lot of people just kind of assume that maybe part of Christianity is just God just making everything work and pulling everything together. It's like you have to put in that work. And I think the Bible explicitly talks about that, right? One of the things you don't have to work for is for salvation. That's a free gift. But there are works that you should be looking to execute over your lifetime, not only to benefit yourself or your family, but to give God glory, to show the amazing things that God has done in your life, right? So it's not just about putting it in God's hands and letting him do everything. You have to put in some work. I want to jump into the 7 synonyms that are aligned to the word diligent that I have some examples for that I think really brings home this message, all right? So the first word that I want to talk about is prepared, right? In order to be diligent, you have to be prepared. What does that mean? So we're talking about preparation. We're talking about if you have a project or some kind of event you're hosting or an initiative that you're working on, you have to prepare for that. Like, who needs to be involved? Like, do you need any materials? What kind of resources do you need? Do you need to hire someone? That's the preparation of getting to a point where you can execute on whatever it is that you set to do, right? Word number 2 is organized, making sure that you know where everything is so that you can go right to it and get it. Or organizing, whether it's materials or information or data, whatever that is. And I know oftentimes men in general have a bad rap for not being extremely organized. I don't think is that men are not organized. I think men naturally tend to do better as minimalists. So when they have a smaller amount of things to organize and manage, obviously they do a lot better. Women seem to have better traits with the way that their minds are wired to be a bit more organized. I know my wife is way more organized than I am, but it's still important as a diligent man to make sure that you are organized in all of your ventures or things that you're working on. All right. Number 3, which I love, is studious, right? It's another synonym associated with being diligent, and it's all under that diligent umbrella. Being studious, right? So being studious is being willing to learn, asking questions, being inquisitive, right? Having a set goal or a series of goals and understanding kind of where you are as far as the knowledge, right, of what the things you need to do to achieve that goal, and understanding like, hey, I don't have the knowledge for this. I want to be a web designer. I don't have the knowledge of being a web designer. I want to be a lawyer. I don't have the knowledge to be a lawyer. All right, so where do I get that knowledge, right? So being studious is about being inquisitive, knowing kind of where you are as far as knowledge is concerned, and looking to seek that knowledge. Seek and you shall find, right? So seeking the knowledge that you need to execute on the goals that you've set. Number 4, being industrious. So after you've got the knowledge, now you have to become highly skilled in that field or with whatever those skills that you need in order to accomplish your goals. One example could be is if you decided, hey, I want to prepare to be able to protect my family if I need to. So I want to start looking into firearms, right? You don't know anything about firearms, so you want to prepare, right? So then you get organized and you say, all right, well, what is it that I need to do in order to be able to carry a firearm or to buy a firearm? So you get organized, you get your paperwork, you figure out what the requirements are. Then you get studious, you learn more about firearms. Maybe you do some individual research. Maybe you reach out to some people who know more about firearms than you. And then you look to, obviously get the permits that you need, get the education. Maybe you take some sort of a firearms instructor class. So you learn, right? Then you get to that next step where you're looking to build a skill. So now you have your firearms license and you have a firearm. Well, you got to go train with that firearm. You're at the beginner level. So you go to the range, you shoot, you train, you learn how to handle the weapon. You make sure that you understand all the safety protocols. You understand all the laws within your state. that you're following all the instructions and how it should be used, right? You're practicing with it so you can improve your accuracy, right? Becoming highly skilled is extremely important as a diligent man. So you don't have to be highly skilled in everything, right? It's highly skilled within the field that you're working in or the purpose that you're called upon. If you're called upon to be, a construction worker or a finance guy, accountant, or a lawyer, or in medicine, or whatever it is that you choose to do, whether it's, career related, maybe you're a philanthropist, maybe you're called upon by God to be a pastor or minister, right? You want to get to a point where you're highly skilled in your work, in the things that you're doing, and or you're networking or partnering with someone else that's skilled in order to accomplish some of those goals. All right, so number 5, conscientious, right? So you want to be conscious of what it means to be or have integrity and morality in the field of anything that you're doing in all of your work, right? So the question is, hey, is what I'm doing moral? Is how I'm handling my work being handled in a moral way? Am I dealing with this with integrity? Am I being fair? Am I being honest? Am I being trustworthy? Right? You have to be conscious of how you're behaving as you're doing your work. So that's extremely important as well when you think about your work overall. So there's a lot of scenarios that you can think about where your morality or your integrity may come into question or may be challenged, right, in any of the work that you do. So to be diligent means that you're mindful of, hey, am I doing this the right way? Like is praying to God, hey, is this moral? Or maybe speaking with a pastor or minister or somebody you trust, a mentor, and saying, hey, am I thinking the right way about this? Am I doing the right way? Is this legal? Right? So you want to do things that are moral, and you want to do things of high integrity. Number 6, you want to be diligent. You have to be meticulous. So the details matter. Now, I'll be first to say, I'm not a super detailed oriented kind of person, but regardless if I'm super detailed or not, the details in anything that I work on still matter. So that may be, something that I need to focus in on and hone in on for a particular project I'm working on. Or maybe it means that I need to partner with somebody or hire somebody if it's business related. If it's super detailed, maybe I need to hire an analyst or something like that. But to some degree, to be a diligent man, it's very important that you're meticulous and detailed about your work, or at least that you're able to identify the details and then figure out how you want to make sure that those details are cared for in order to accomplish the overall goal. And last but not least, the last word or synonym associated to the word diligent that I found that I thought was extremely insightful is the word committed, right? So being committed means that you're focused on what you're doing. Now, being focused on what you're doing doesn't necessarily have to mean that you're blocking off your entire family or your wife or your children. Or, I mean, if you're single, then that's a lot maybe easier, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have to live in a cave and just focus on this one thing that you're working on. Or it could mean that for a time. We saw Moses, right? Stories about Moses going up to Mount Sinai. He'd be up there for a long time speaking with God, right? Uninterrupted. Or even Jesus when, the 40 days of the 40 nights where he was fasting, he was out alone. So there may be times of isolation, which can be good, but I'm not talking about like isolation until the overall goal or job is complete. What I'm talking about is limiting distractions that are not healthy as you go through your journey to complete whatever it is you're doing or while you're doing your work. So distractions could be like, addiction to social media. It could be, watching too much TV and movies and that sort of thing. It could be, gentlemen, it could be video games, right? It could be hanging out at bars or hanging out too much with friends. It could be, it could be an addiction to porn. It could be addiction to, alcohol. And obviously these are all things that as Christian men, we want to make sure that we're not a part of, and that we're praying to God to help us deal with if we have issues with them. But any distractions like these to keep you away from focusing and being committed to your work is extremely important to get rid of. All right. So those are the 7 synonyms associated to the word diligent that I think really helps to capture what it means to be diligent overall and to be a diligent man. Hopefully this was helpful to you. Go back and rewind the video and maybe take some notes and kind of think about it step by step. I'm going to do more videos on being diligent in more detail as you're going through whatever transformation that you may be going through on your Christian journey. All right. So thanks for watching the video. Of course, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel so that you can get notified, hit that little bell so that you can get notified every time I make a video, and stay tuned to more content like this.